Imagine doing the exact same workout, right?
Yep.
Eating the exact same diet, but you wake up one day to find you've mysteriously gained like 10 pounds of belly fat.
Yeah, which is incredibly frustrating.
Oh, absolutely. And for millions of women navigating perimenopause or menopause, or, even if you're just planning ahead for that stage of life, this is not a bad dream. It is literally just biology. You wake up one day and it feels like your own body has completely rewritten the rule book right in the middle of the game.
It is the absolute definition of metabolic muddy waters. I mean, women spend decades figuring out a lifestyle formula that works perfectly for their unique physiology, and then suddenly those exact same inputs yield completely different, often really frustrating outputs.
Right. Which brings us to the mission of today's deep dive. We are going to discover the absolute best types of exercise to preserve your muscle mass, boost your metabolism, and actually combat that sudden weight gain during menopause.
It's a huge topic.
It really is.
Yeah.
And to do this, we're looking at a fantastic stack of sources. We've got official medical guidelines from the NHS, the Mayo Clinic, the British Menopause Society, plus some really cutting-edge sports science studies.
Yeah, the sports science data is fascinating right now.
Totally. And we also have incredible real-world success stories, including this one about a 56-year-old woman who completely transformed her body composition when she literally thought it was, too late for her.
Because the prevailing narrative is often just to endure these changes, right? Like, just get through it. But the science we're looking at today shifts that perspective entirely. It shows how you can actively manage and, honestly, even reverse some of these major metabolic shifts just by changing the physical stimulus you give your body.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I want to make one thing very clear right from the start.
Yes.
This is not about exhausting yourself.
No, definitely not.
Right. It is not about spending 3 hours a day suffering on a treadmill. It is about working smarter with your changing hormones. And to do that, well, we have to map out exactly why those old routines, the steady state jogs, the light cardio sessions, why they are suddenly misfiring. Let's get into the menopausal metabolic shift.
Yeah, so during the perimenopause transition, women gain an average of 1.5 kilograms. That's over 3 pounds every single year.
Wow. Over 3 pounds a year.
Exactly. And that often totals up to 10 kilograms or about 22 pounds by the time they actually reach menopause.
And the sheer weight gain is frustrating enough on its own, but the sources emphasize that it's really the redistribution of that weight that changes the game.
Yeah, where it goes is the issue.
Right. For decades, estrogen was essentially acting as a gatekeeper, right? Directing fat storage down to the hips and thighs. But when estrogen drops, that gate is left wide open, and the primary storage mechanism shifts upward, right toward the abdomen.
Spot on. We see visceral fat, so that deep belly fat that surrounds your internal organs, jump from making up maybe 5 to 8% of total body weight all the way up to 10 to 15%.
That's a huge percentage shift.
It really is. And compounding this rapid shift in fat storage is a parallel dramatic decline in muscle, which is a process called sarcopenia.
Right. And we naturally lose about 8% of our muscle mass every decade after 40, right?
Unfortunately, yes. The motor neurons in the body that communicate with those muscle fibers gradually die off. And, well, without that neural signal, the fibers just atrophy.
But what you really need to grasp here is that muscle isn't just for movement, It is highly metabolically active tissue. It acts like a sponge for the energy you consume.
Exactly. So your basal metabolic rate, the calories you burn just keeping your organs functioning while, sitting on the couch, that drops by about 5% per decade, strictly due to this silent muscle loss.
Man, it's like trying to heat a house, but your furnace is slowly shrinking.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. Like if you keep shoveling the exact same amount of coal into a smaller furnace, it obviously can't burn it all. The excess coal just piles up in the basement, or in this biological case, around the waistline.
Precisely.
But I have to push back on the framing of this a bit. If motor neurons are dying off and hormones are permanently dropping, are we just supposed to accept a slower metabolism as some sort of inevitable decline?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is a resounding no.
Okay, good.
Yeah. These physiological changes are natural, absolutely, but they are highly responsive to specific physical stimuli. Sarcopenia is heavily accelerated by inactivity. You can halt it and actually reverse it by forcing the body to adapt through targeted, intentional training.
So if the furnace is shrinking due to motor neuron loss, We need a stimulus intense enough to force the body to build a new one.
Exactly.
And the sources unanimously point to strength training as the ultimate antidote here.
They do. In fact, resistance training is described in the medical and sports science literature as the closest lifestyle equivalent to HRT.
Wait, really? The closest equivalent to hormone replacement therapy?
Yes, when it comes to supporting muscle, bones, and metabolic health, it is that powerful.
Calling lifting weights the lifestyle equivalent of HRT is a massive claim. I mean, it elevates strength training from just a simple fitness goal to a fundamental medical intervention for aging women.
It really does, because it alters the neuromuscular system. In a menopausal context, heavy resistance training actually forces your central nervous system to recruit dormant muscle fibers to handle the load.
Oh, so it's effectively bypassing those dying motor neurons we talked about.
You hit the nail on the head, it increases your functional strength capacity, rebuilds that lost tissue, and completely resets your resting metabolic rate.
And we see this play out in the data beautifully. There was this study highlighted in Runner's World tracking 72 active women between the ages of 46 and 57.
A really solid study.
Yeah. And none of them were on hormone replacement therapy. Half were put on a 12-week resistance training program, and the results were just phenomenal.
They were. After just 12 weeks, the resistance training group saw a 19% increase in hip and lower body strength.
Which is huge in just 3 months.
Absolutely. And counterintuitively, for anyone who thinks lifting makes you, like, stiff and bulky, they saw a 21% increase in full body flexibility.
Which makes perfect sense when you consider that proper strength training, moving through a full range of motion, is essentially loaded stretching. I mean, you are lengthening and strengthening the tendons simultaneously.
Exactly.
The lifters also saw a 10% increase in dynamic balance. Meanwhile, the control group, who just stuck to their moderate cardio routines, saw 0 significant improvements across the board.
0. It really underscores how specific the physical stimulus needs to be. You simply cannot jog your way out of sarcopenia.
Yeah, and Julie Moody's story illustrates this perfectly. So she's 56, working as a cabin crew member, and she was feeling completely lost in her fitness journey.
Which is such a common experience.
It really is. She was bored with her gym routine, she didn't know how to program weights effectively, so she canceled her membership and just relied on running outside. But her body composition kept slipping away.
Because cardio feels accessible and familiar, right? But it lacks the heavy mechanical tension required to trigger that neuromuscular adaptation we just discussed.
Exactly. So she finally started working with a trainer specializing in menopause. She made full-body strength training her priority, and here is the key. She fit her running around the strength work rather than making cardio the main event.
That is the critical switch.
Yeah, and in just 5 weeks, she lost almost 10 pounds, that's 4.2 kilograms, and 4 inches around her waist. She got so strong, she eventually competed in a Hyrox fitness race at 56.
It's an incredible result, and the sources outline the specific compound movements that were foundational to her success. Things like goblet squats, Romanian deadlifts, push-ups, and overhead presses.
So the big moves.
Right. These aren't small isolation exercises. They recruit massive amounts of muscle tissue all at once, which maximizes the metabolic and hormonal response in the body.
But let's pause here, because I know what you might be thinking. What if you haven't picked up a weight in a decade?
A very fair question.
Right. Like, we can't just tell someone to grab a heavy barbell and start doing Romanian deadlifts. How do you start without destroying your back or your knees?
The foundational principle here is progressive overload. You start exactly where you are and incrementally increase the demand.
So no rushing into the heavy stuff.
Never. If you haven't exercised in years, your own body weight provides more than enough mechanical tension to trigger growth. You begin with basic bodyweight squats. If a standard push-up is too aggressive on the shoulder joints, you do wall push-ups.
Right, just modify it.
Exactly. You aim for 2 to 3 sessions a week. As the neuromuscular system adapts and those movements feel easier, you add a light dumbbell or you just increase the repetitions.
Okay, so strength training builds us a bigger furnace. But how do we get the fire burning hot enough to actually clear out the excess energy and counteract the insulin resistance that spikes during perimenopause?
That's the next piece of the puzzle.
Because spending hours doing low-intensity jogging clearly isn't the optimal answer anymore.
No, it's not. Once estrogen levels drop, your body requires a much sharper, more intense cardiovascular stimulus to achieve the same metabolic benefits. This involves high-intensity interval training, or HIT, and sprint interval training, or SIT.
And the cellular science behind this is fascinating. When you engage in HIIT or SE, You are forcing your heart rate up into zones 4 and 5, which
Yeah.
means hitting 80 to 90% of your absolute maximum effort.
Yes, you are breathing so hard you physically cannot hold a conversation.
Right.
And pushing the cardiovascular system that hard for 30 to 60 seconds triggers a massive mitochondrial response.
And the mitochondria are the microscopic powerhouses of your cells, right?
Exactly. And as we age, they become sluggish and inefficient. This intense stimulus forces them to wake up and multiply, drastically improving your glucose metabolism.
Which directly counteracts insulin resistance, one of the major culprits driving that stubborn menopausal visceral fat accumulation. I mean, the cells become highly sensitive to insulin again, drawing glucose out of your bloodstream and using it for energy instead of stubbornly storing it as fat.
Precisely. And beyond the metabolic clearing, the jump training frequently incorporated into these HICATE sessions provides a crucial mechanical stress for your skeleton.
Oh, this is about bone density, right?
Yes. Declining estrogen causes a rapid loss of bone mineral density. But the actual physical impact of jumping even light, rhythmic hopping sends a signal to the osteoblasts, which are your bone-forming cells, to actively lay down new, dense bone tissue.
But here's where it gets really interesting, because the word sprint sounds absolutely terrifying to a lot of people.
It does sound intimidating.
If I'm 55 and I have a history of creaky knees or joint pain, being told to go sprint sounds like a prescription for an orthopedic injury. Are we really telling women to go pound the pavement on a track?
No, not at all. That is a critical misconception that keeps so many women from getting these benefits. Sprinting in the context of SIT refers strictly to a high cardiovascular effort, not the physical speed your legs are moving across the ground.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it is entirely an internal heart rate metric.
Wait, so I can hit zone 5 without ever leaving the ground or doing any high-impact jumping?
Absolutely. Sprint interval training can be entirely low impact.
Oh, wow.
You can achieve it by pedaling with maximum effort against heavy resistance on a stationary bike. You can do brisk marching with high knees or aggressive power stepping on a small box. The goal is to give maximum internal effort for those 30 to 60 seconds, followed by a full minute or two of complete recovery.
Right, so we are building the furnace with progressive strength training, and we are burning the fuel efficiently with sprint intervals. Those are the heavy hitters.
They are.
But the sources make it clear we can't ignore the stealth stabilizers. These are the foundational movements that keep you safe from injury and directly target the hidden culprit of menopausal weight gain, which is cortisol.
Yes. Cortisol is your body's primary stress hormone. And during the menopausal transition, cortisol levels frequently become chronically elevated due to the physical symptoms themselves.
Like the night sweats.
Exactly. Night sweats lead to severe sleep deprivation, and the body interprets that chronic lack of sleep as a massive, ongoing biological stressor.
And let's explain why high cortisol specifically causes the waistline to expand. It's not just a general weight gain, is it?
No, it's very specific.
Right. Visceral fat cells actually have a significantly higher density of cortisol receptors compared to subcutaneous fat, which is the softer fat just under your skin. So when cortisol is constantly surging through your bloodstream, it acts like a chemical magnet, directing the body to store energy deep in the belly.
It is an ancient evolutionary survival mechanism. A stressed body believes it is in physical danger, so it hoards readily accessible energy around the vital organs.
Makes sense biologically.
It does. But simultaneously, high cortisol breaks down your muscle tissue for quick glucose, directly sabotaging the strength training we just spent so much time discussing.
Ugh, that's brutal. So what does this all mean? It means that incorporating mind-body exercises like yoga, Pilates, or dedicated deep breathing isn't just about feeling relaxed or treating yourself to a mental break.
Not at all.
Right. It is literally a targeted metabolic strategy to lower that cortisol spike, stop the chemical muscle breakdown, and shut off the body's signal to hoard belly fat.
Furthermore, these mind-body practices naturally integrate balance and flexibility training, which the NHS strongly emphasizes in their guidelines.
Yes, the balance component is huge.
As bone density decreases, preventing falls becomes paramount to long-term health.
And the NHS outlines incredibly straightforward balance exercises that can be done anywhere, no equipment needed. Things like sideways walking.
Yeah.
The simple grapevine, where you cross one foot over the other while walking sideways.
Simple but effective.
Yeah, heel to toe, walking in a straight line, and basic one-leg stance.
They might seem deceptively simple, but they constantly challenge the vestibular system and proprioception.
Which is your body's neurological awareness of where it is in space, right?
Exactly, and that rapidly deteriorates. if not practiced. And while we are talking about stabilization, we have to integrate the pelvic floor into this conversation.
Yes, Kegel exercises. But the sources show it's far more connected to the rest of your workout than just isolated squeezing while you're sitting at a stoplight.
Much more connected. The pelvic floor acts as a muscular hammock supporting the bladder, bowel, and sexual organs.
Right.
When you are doing those heavy goblet squats or Romanian deadlifts we talked about, you are creating massive intra-abdominal pressure to stabilize your spine.
Which you need to do to lift safely.
Exactly. But if the pelvic floor is weak, it cannot withstand that downward pressure, leading to the urinary control issues many women experience. Strengthening it provides the deep core stability necessary to lift heavy weights safely.
Okay, so we have the entire exercise prescription mapped out.
Yeah.
But you can trigger all the muscle repair you want with squats and intervals if the supply truck doesn't show up with the bricks, the protein. The workers just go home and the muscle doesn't grow.
That's a great analogy.
The furnace doesn't get bigger. We have to talk about nutrition.
We do. And what's fascinating here is a massive debate that surfaced in the sports science sources regarding menopausal muscle loss. For years, the burning question has been, is menopausal muscle atrophy primarily caused by the sudden lack of estrogen, or is it just the natural aging process?
Because if it's strictly estrogen, that implies you are fighting a hormonal ghost that you can never really beat without medication.
Exactly. But the current cutting-edge evidence shows it is primarily driven by aging itself. As we age, our muscles develop anabolic resistance.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
This means they require a much larger dose of protein to trigger the exact same muscle-building response they used to get from smaller amounts. It is an age-driven threshold issue, not just an estrogen deficiency.
Which is actually incredibly empowering. It means active women don't need a magical, complicated menopause diet.
No, they really don't.
They just need to hit optimal athletic protein targets to breach that new, higher anabolic resistance threshold and flip the muscle-building switch.
Right. The specific targets recommended in the literature are likely much higher than what most listeners currently consume. The goal is 1.2 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day.
And the timing is critical, too. You can't just eat a massive chicken breast at dinner and call it a day, expecting your muscles to grow.
No, because the body does not store protein for later use in muscle synthesis. You need to spread it evenly, aiming for 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal.
Per meal.
Yes. That specific amount ensures you get enough of the essential amino acids, particularly leucine, to stimulate optimal absorption and muscle repair consistently throughout the day.
And protein is doing double duty here, too. One of our sources refers to it as the metabolic wing woman.
I love that phrase.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It has a high thermic effect, meaning your body burns significantly more calories simply digesting protein compared to breaking down fats or carbohydrates.
It is also highly satiating. It manages the hunger hormones, ghrelin and leptin, which get completely thrown out of balance when you are sleep-deprived from night sweats.
Right. When you are up at 3 a.m. with a hot flash, those hormones are screaming at you for quick, sugary energy. Hitting those protein targets keeps you full, stops the late-night pantry raids, and preserves the lean muscle mass you are working so hard to build in the gym.
It forms the entire nutritional foundation that makes all the physical exertion actually effective.
Man, we have covered some serious ground today. Let's quickly recap the ultimate menopause exercise prescription for you. First, prioritize strength training 2 to 3 times a week. That is how you bypass those dying motor neurons and build a bigger, stronger metabolic furnace.
Second, incorporate high-intensity interval training or sprint intervals to force a mitochondrial response, drastically improve your insulin sensitivity, and clear out excess glucose.
Third, integrate balance exercises, pelvic floor work, and mind-body activities like yoga to lower cortisol, which directly stops your visceral fat cells from hoarding energy.
And finally, eat enough protein spread evenly in 20 to 30 gram doses throughout the day to overcome age-related anabolic resistance and provide the building blocks for the entire process.
Yes. And as we wrap up, there is a philosophical shift in these sources that really demands attention.
Definitely. We so often view the physical symptoms of menopause as a sign of irreversible decline. Society treats it as a signal that the female body is becoming fragile, that it needs to be coddled, protected, and rested.
The default advice is usually just to take it easy.
Right. But look at the science we just unpacked. The exact things that relieve symptoms, preserve bone density, and burn visceral fat are intentional, intense physical stressors.
Like lifting heavy weights.
Yes. Sprint intervals that leave you breathless. The demanding stimuli are the medicine. So what if menopause isn't a signal to slow down? What if it is actually a biological prompt demanding that you step up and become the strongest, most resilient version of yourself?
I absolutely love that reframing. The rules of the game didn't change to defeat you. They changed to challenge you to play at a higher level. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Our challenge to you today is simple. Take one small step. You don't have to overhaul your life right this second. Do a 15-minute brisk walk or try a set of bodyweight squats against the wall. Start shoveling the coal into the furnace you are building right now. Until next time.